Hello, friends. This is Akul Mac Live, and I am Chandrakant. And in the legal matters, we are discussing integration of India. And today we have a very, very interesting topic to discuss. And we have a very interesting guest in our studios. So, without further ado, let us start a discussion. But before that, I'd like to remind you that there is a giveaway. So, please stick around to this outstanding show, and we will tell you how you can claim your free gift. Friends, welcome back. And today we want to discuss something very, very specific from our independent India's history, which is the integration of Goa and other sister states. And to discuss this particular matter, my friend is joining from Ahmedabad, Advocate Jeet Bhatt. So without further ado, let me invite him into the discussion.
Thank you, Chandrakant, for having me on this show in legal matters. And yes, we are going to discuss a very important part of how Goa, Daman, Diu, and Dadra and Nagar Haveli got integrated into India, and what led to the events after independence. That and what happened, especially how the Portugal government took India to the International Court of Justice, and what judgments were delivered by the International Court of Justice.
Before we start our discussion, Jeet, in fact, I like to tell the viewers that they were not only English who were ruling India, and we had to fight the English people to get independence, but there was French as well as the Portugals. Portugal rule were also there. So I think there were certain colonies of Portuguese which were still remaining in India, and this particular incident is related to that. So Jeet, over to you to tell us more about this.
Yes, absolutely. Chandrakant, you're absolutely right. In fact, even the Dutch, the French, the Portugal, and the British all were trying to establish their colonies. But the colonization started with the Portugal, and it started with Vasco da Gama finding the shores of India in the year 1498, when Christopher Columbus could not find India when he had started his journey to find India, but he reached America in 1492. But Vasco da Gama landed in India in the shores of Indian Ocean at Calicut, and this thereafter led to the war in Calicut, and ultimately the Portugal establishing their colony in India in the early 16th century. But and this is a very important milestone in world history, because this opened the age of imperialism and enabled the Portuguese to establish their empire in Asia. So, because of this, even Vasco da Gama was made the governor of India and was given the title of viceroy. And since 16th century, they established their colony in India, and it opened the Indian route for trade through sea. And they were very much interested in the spices that India was exporting at that time. So, after finding India, the Portuguese started colonizing parts of India, and there were sultanates and different rules in India. And in the year 1510, the present-day Goa and Daman were made the headquarters of the the Portuguese colony. Now, Daman, Diu, and Goa, how they became part of the Portugal colony is also interesting, because in the early 16th century, the Sultan of Gujarat, that is the Bahadur Shah, came under immense pressure when his kingdom was invaded by the Mughal Emperor Humayun. And it is because of this that he sought help from the Portuguese and wanted conciliatory terms with them. And because of helping the Humayun forces driven out from his state, he had given the parts of Daman and Diu to the Portugal colony, and therefore they could establish their empire in Daman and Diu. Now, Diu became an important port for the Portuguese, and they built a large fort, and several architectural places, which we can see even today in Diu, were built by the Portuguese. So, for around 4.5 centuries, Daman and Diu were part of the Portugal dominion, and they ultimately were driven out in the year 1961. But Nagar Haveli, Dadra Nagar and Haveli, which is also was a Portuguese part, and how it came into the Portugal colony, was that it was transferred from the Rajput to the Marathas, and in the mid 18th century, around 1779, by a Treaty of Pune, the Marathas gave Dadra and Nagar Haveli villages to the Portuguese colony as its Jagir. And this is very important because this led to the matter reaching the International Court of Justice. And they claimed sovereignty over Dadra and Nagar Haveli by producing some documents and treaties of 1779. But even India, while defending them, could find out important treaties and documents, which ultimately led to the conclusion that Dadra and Nagar Haveli was given as Jagirs rather than a sovereign power was given. So this was also important, and it was transferred to the Portuguese by the Marathas. Now, after the Indian national movement and India gaining independence in the year 1947, the Portuguese part of India was subdivided into 3 districts, which were namely Goa, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, which was part in Daman, and Diu. So these 3 districts were part of the Portugal colony. And India, at that time, the Indian government was also in a diplomatic way trying to get independence for these 3 states. But the Portugal government was emphatically declining and not giving up its colonial power. And they said that it is an integral part of Portugal. And it is Portugal territory, and they would not give up their sovereignty. But there were several Goans who were resenting this colonial power because for over 400 years, the Portuguese had ruled. And of course, nobody wanted to live under subjugation of a colonial rule. And especially with the freedom movement picking up and ultimately India gaining freedom from the British colonial rule, even there were uprisings in Goa against the Portuguese rule in these 3 districts. But they were not giving up their sovereign rights and giving up independence to these 3 states. And therefore, they could not be integrated when India became independent. And despite of several attempts by the Indian government, the Portugal government was not giving up their sovereign rights. So therefore, despite the diplomatic relations, the Goans were resenting this Portugal rule and were therefore carrying out agitations. And in 1954, in the month of July, they attacked the Dadra and Nagar Haveli villages, and all the inhabitants and villagers declared themselves to be independent on 22nd of July 1954. So therefore, Dadra and Nagar Haveli were seized and it declared independent by their inhabitants. Now, it is around 40 kilometers from Daman. And what happened at that time was economic blockades were made by the Indian government. And the Indian government refused the Portuguese army to carry arms, ammunition, and reach Dadra and Nagar Haveli, as Dadra and Nagar Haveli had already declared itself to be independent. So despite of the request of the Portugal government to the Indian government to send the army and the arms and ammunition to Dadra and Nagar Haveli, this said request was rejected. And therefore, in 1955, on 22nd December 1955, the Portuguese government approached the International Court of Justice under the international law and under the United Nations Charter against the Republic of India on the ground that the government of India was acting contrary to the practice previously followed, and India prevented the Portuguese from exercising their right on the Portuguese possessions in India. So the Portuguese government alleged that on 21st July 1954, the government of India severed all communications between Daman and the enclaves of Dadra and Nagar Haveli, totally cutting the enclaves off from the outside world, preventing the governor of Daman himself from having access to them, and concentrating troops in considerable strength on Indian soil near the borders of the said territories. Because coming from Daman to Dadra and Nagar Haveli, they had to cross the Indian territory. And therefore, they required the permission if they wanted to carry on arms and ammunition. And therefore, not allowing them, they approached the International Court of Justice on these grounds. And the International Court of Justice considered the entire case put up by the Portuguese government, wherein the Portuguese government requested the Court of Justice to declare that the Portugal is the holder and beneficiary of right of passage between its territory of Daman and its enclave territories of Dadra and Nagar Haveli, and between each of the latter, and that this right comprises the faculty of transit for or persons and goods, including armed forces or other upholders of law and order, without restrictions or difficulties, and in the manner and to the extent required by the effective exercise of Portuguese sovereignty in the said territories. Now, India was defended by the then Attorney General of India, Mr. M.C. Shetalwad, and he was appointed as the agent and counsel to represent before the International Court of Justice. And also, every country who approaches has a right to nominate its own judge. So even India had a right, as well as Portugal, to appoint their own designate judges. And India appointed one of the very famous judge, Justice M.C. Chagla, as one of its judges presiding over the 17-judge bench of the International Court of Justice. M.C. Shetalwad, in his autobiography, My Life, Law and Other Things, has mentioned about this case in detail. But there are some interesting aspects which he deals with, which I want to point out to the viewers. He mentions about this case before the World Court, and he says that Portugal had rested their case largely on historical facts, and especially on the Treaty of 1779 between the Portugal and the Marathas, with respect to which they claimed sovereignty over Dadra and Nagar Haveli. Now, no one in the ministry at that time, he says, that had any idea of the Treaty of 1779. The External Affairs Ministry had to appoint or set up a resource unit to carry out extensive research on the subject. Now, the research unit looked through the record from the years 1739 to 1954. For more than 200 years, they searched. And the records of the Peshwa Daftar consisted of rolls of papers written in the Modi script, which when enrolled would extend to a length in some cases of 100 feet, or in the form of sheets folded flat and tied in rumals. So those rolls, if you enroll, it would be 100 feet long, and they had to read in that Modi script. And he also goes on to say that about 40 lakhs of such papers were examined, and their research proved extremely fruitful for India, as it was found that Portugal had never received neither the right of passage from the Marathas, nor did it even receive a legal title to the territories of Dadra and Nagar Haveli, as it was found out that the documents showed that the Portuguese were only the Jagirdars to the Marathas. So they were feudal lords ultimately. They were not owners of the land. They were taking care of the land as Jagirdars. So subsequently, the Portuguese established their authority against the will of the Marathas and by act of usurpation. So the original title which they claimed to have given them the sovereign rights over the lands of Dadra and Nagar Haveli were actually not correct. And they had not produced this treaty before the International Court of Justice. And India argued that this amounted to suppression of material fact, because they produced certain treaties which are beneficial to them, but they did not produce the actual treaties which provided that they had only Jagirdar rights. So this was an act of suppression on the part of the Portugal government, and this was highlighted, and this was available to the Ministry of External Affairs only by way of an extensive research which was done by this research unit, which carried out research for more than 200 years. So therefore, this was very helpful for India to defend, and therefore the International Court of Justice rejected the Portugal's claim that she was or ever was entitled to take armed forces or armed police or arms and ammunition over Indian territory between Daman and Dadra, Nagar and Haveli. And this is what they wanted the International Court of Justice to declare. But as regards passage rights of private persons and civil officials and goods, the court held that prior to the liberation of Dadra and Nagar Haveli in 1954, Portugal did enjoy that limited right. So the only right that Portugal had from Daman to Dadra and Nagar Haveli was to carry goods and the passage of private persons and civil officials, but it did not have the right to carry or passage of arms, ammunition, and the army. So therefore, the limited right, the International Court of Justice also held that India had never violated that international obligations with regards to this right of passage. And India had always active within her rights and had not broken any of her international obligations. So this was a major judgment which was delivered on 12th of April 1960 by the International Court of Justice. And Mr. Shetalwar also quotes one of the Argentine judge who made a remarkable statement regarding the continuation of colonial system. And I quote the passage of the Argentine judge when he says that to support the Portuguese claim in this case, which implies survival of the colonial system without categorical and conclusive proof, is to fly in the face of the United Nations Charter. As judge of its own law, United Nations Charter, judge of its own age, the age of national independence, international court cannot turn its back on the world as it is. So it clearly refused the colonial powers to exercise even in an independent world, because since 1947, even the 1945, the United Nations itself had suggested that the colonial powers, the imperialism must end, and every country should have a right to determine their own freedom and independence. So therefore, this was a major victory for India before the International Court of Justice in the year 1960. And the foreign press also recognized that the decision sounded the death knell of Portuguese colonial rule in India. The International Court also recognized that the Portuguese authority over these enclaves had been overthrown in 1954, and therefore Dadra and Nagar Haveli were no longer the sovereign powers of under the colonial rule of Portugal, and they had declared themselves to be independent. So therefore, there was no impediment for India to incorporate the Dadra and Nagar Haveli into its own territory. And therefore, on 11th August 1961, the 10th Constitutional Amendment Bill was unanimously passed in the Lok Sabha on 14th August and on 16th August before the Rajya Sabha. And it is because of that on 15th August 1961, Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru began his Independence Day speech at the Red Fort with a proud announcement that two parts of India that had been separated from the motherland were now reunited with India. So therefore, this is how Dadra and Nagar Haveli came to be part of the Indian territory in the year 1961 after winning the battle before the International Court of Justice. Also, after this judgment, what happened is that India again tried to negotiate on a diplomatic basis with respect to Goa and Diu. But however, Portuguese government did not agree to India's request to give them or declare them to be independent. And it is because of that Operation Vijay was put into action. And Operation Vijay was an Army, Navy as well as Air Force operation, which involved land, sea and air strikes, which started on 18th of December 1961 and lasted for over 36 hours, resulting in 22 Indian deaths and 30 Portuguese deaths. And on 19th December 1961, the Portuguese Governor General surrendered and declared that and gave independence to the state of Goa and Daman and Diu. Though the Portuguese government at that time, the Portuguese Prime Minister had told the Governor General of Goa that we will never surrender. The Portuguese army will die, but it will not surrender. But despite that, because considering that there were 30,000 Indian army, within 36 hours, the Portuguese Governor General surrendered, considering the loss of lives that would have resulted if they would not have surrendered. So this is how, by way of Operation Vijay, that in 1961, Goa, Daman, Diu got annexed or got into the Indian territories and were liberated from the Portugal colony. Even at that time, the international pressure was made against India, because on 18th December 1961, when this Operation Vijay had started, the Portugal government approached the United Nations before the Security Council. And the Security Council met and also were going to issue a resolution for India to declare a ceasefire. But it is at that time that USSR issued its veto power, and that resolution could not be passed. Otherwise, that colonial rule of Portugal would not have been freed, and India would have to wait for a long time, and even the people of Goa would have to wait if USSR had not helped India in exercising its veto power. And it's because of this veto power that in 36 hours the war was complete, the surrender of Goa and Daman, led to the independence of Goa, and it was declared as a part of India. So in 1967, a referendum was called the Goa Opinion Poll, where the voters were asked to decide whether the Union Territory were to be merged with Maharashtra or should they remain independent. But at that time, the referendum voted in favor of Goa remaining an independent union territory. And therefore, it was not merged with Maharashtra. But ultimately, in 1987, Goa was formed as a state, and it was declared as the 25th state of India. But Daman and Dadra and Nagar Haveli were declared as union territories. So this is how an interesting events led to the independence of Goa, Daman, Diu, and Dadra and Nagar Haveli, and how it released itself from the colonial power of Portugal, and in 1961 became a part of India.
Very interesting, Jeet. It was really good to learn about so much, effort, and so many people who were dedicated to bring India together. Even after 1947, a whole lot of things were being done. So it was very interesting to learn from you about all of this.
Yes, absolutely. It's very interesting, and also the case that happened before the International Court of Justice is also a very interesting chapter of how India defended its case and its territory, and also its people and the people of Goa before the International Court of Justice. So it was certainly a very interesting event which led to the independence of these three territories into India.
Well, Jeet, you started off by saying that all this started with Vasco da Gama coming to India, and it was very serious and all that. So I want to also share a folklore which I heard in Durban when I was in South Africa, and I want to share that with you. And the folklore goes like this: that Vasco da Gama had 3 ships with him when he started his journey from Portugal. And because he was not too, he wanted to be very safe, so he never ventured out of the land beyond 1 or 2 kilometers. So his command was that don't go out into the deep ocean while coming southwards into the Atlantic, and you should be always seeing the land. You should not drift away from the land, so that we know we are going in the right path. And then he crossed over Cape of Good Hope, and then finally reached encircled the Africa, reached Durban. And from Durban, he did not know how to reach India, because in those days, those ships did not have technology to go into the Indian Ocean. And Indian Ocean was supposed to be very, very, very turbulent. Even today, it is one of the most turbulent ocean that we have in the world, one of the most turbulent ocean. So he was really in a fix. How do I cross Indian Ocean to reach India? And that is when, I'm not claiming authenticity of the story, but it's just a folklore which are prevalent in Durban. He met a sailor called Patel Bhai, who had more than 12 ships with him. And he was constantly running from Java, Sumatra, Durban, and he had a huge navy. And then he asked, hey, can you tell me how do I reach India? So Patel Bhai said, okay, why don't you come along? You have 3 ships, no problem. We will share the route and all that. So the Patel Bhai dropped him off in Calicut and then proceeded towards Gujarat. So that is a folklore that I heard in Durban. A lot of Indian, that in Durban, a lot of Indian population is there, and they make probably joke or maybe true, I don't know.
Yes, in fact, there are a lot of such folklores, but we never know the authenticity unless we know it's coming from a proper source. But I think that was the first time where the West reached the Orient, and that is how the first passage which crossed the Indian Ocean and came into the lands of the Calicut in India. So it must be sort of an adventure, and there must have been some help which he must have received from somewhere. So you never know.
Absolutely, because the Indian Navy has been there for last thousands of years, and because India as a country was colonized by British, we actually do not learn too much about our own history. But it's a known fact. If you go to Bali, you will see Gupta dynasty remnants over there. And if you go to any other southeastern east country, you will see the Chola, Rajendra Chola, Raja Chola's descendants are still there. So I think they could not have been there because without a navy, they needed a command, they needed a navy to invade those places, rule those places, set up the rule, set up processes so that they have full control. So I think this is something which is very glorious as far as ancient India is concerned, and I think we should know about it. And not only that, hey, the Europeans came in 1498 and that's how we were colonized. I think European even tried with Alexander coming into India, but then they never crossed Indus River. So I think the time has come to learn a better part of ancient history also for of India from our own researchers who are doing research in this area.
No, absolutely. History has a lot of lessons in store. In fact, there is one more interesting fact with regards to the Portugal colony, that the present-day Bombay and Vasai and the areas in Maharashtra were also part of the Portugal colony. But later in 1661, the British ceded from the Portugal these parts, and then later on developed Bombay as a port. But before British came, it was a Portugal colony, even Bombay and most of the islands in Bombay.
Very interesting. So I think, Jeet, we had a very interesting discussion today. We learned so many things today, and many people would know that there was a sort of skirmish happening between India and Portugal for Goa. But I think you told us the entire story where there was a legal battle in the International Court of Justice, and that is how India won. So thank you so much for finding time and sharing this great lessons from history with us.
Thank you, Chandrakant. In fact, it was my pleasure, and thank you for inviting me. And hope to have such further sessions in next weeks to come.
Great, Jeet. So we will catch up next week. Until then, I'd like to say goodbye to you. We have some unique Akulmek memorabilia which will make you look outstanding. The graphics on these corporate gifts are based on the global best business practices. To become recipient of one of these gifts for free, you have to watch this video till the end and provide your valuable comments, or you can also share your experiences. The person who makes the best comment would be chosen to become a recipient of these beautiful Akulmek gift, absolutely free, delivered to your doorsteps. The winner would also get a chance to be invited live as a distinguished panelist during our next video. What are you waiting for, friends? Please subscribe Akulmek and smash that like button.